problem is when governments go too far. Governments begin to give, quote unquote, give liberties and give rights to people at the expense of others. People say, how can I have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness without health care? Well, it may be hard, but how do you get that health care? How do you get it? It doesn't come for free. So if you look at the smallest or least intrusive government consistent with maximum individual freedom to do as you see fit, as long as you do not interfere with somebody else's right to do the same thing. Let's take the swinging fist and make an analogy between that and healthcare. Well, to get this healthcare, it has to be paid for. And if you don't have the money, then you're going to have to either get somebody to give it to you, or you're going to have to take it from somebody. So if that person doesn't want to give it to you, then you have to use force upon them, either through threat of jail time or something else. And this comes in the form of taxation, and if you don't pay your taxes, you go to jail. So your right to health care ends when you have to infringe upon another man's right to use the product of his labor as he wants to. That's why you don't have rights to things. You have rights to be left alone. I call them negative rights. You have a right to not have your money taken from you. You have a right to not be forced into acts that you don't want to perform. You have a right not to be harmed. You don't have a right to health care. You don't have a right to an education, because you have to trample on somebody else's much larger rights to do with their life and the product of their labor as they see fit. The problem is when governments go too far and they say, well, you have a right to retire in dignity, with dignity. And by that they mean you should automatically have some money, regardless of whether you've earned that money or not. So we'll take from somebody else. Life and labor are interconnected. You know, somebody has said that life is time, is what they say. Life is the product of your labor over time. Labor plus time equals life. Think about it. This house, my cars, you know, the way I live life is really because of the passing of time, and the labor that I've performed during that time allows me to live a certain way. The things that I've done, the relationships I've pursued. So when you begin to take from a man's labor, that's an obvious violation of his property rights. The right to do as he sees fit with his life, as long as he doesn't hurt others. See, if he just keeps his money, he's not committing an act of aggression against somebody. But if somebody takes that money from him against his will, That is an act of aggression. So you don't have a right to health care. You don't have a right to an education. You have a right to your life. You have a right to your property. You have a right to your liberty and the pursuit of your happiness. You don't have a right to happiness. You have a right to pursue your happiness, as long as you don't infringe upon other people's rights. So, it's a lot easier to understand a true meaning of liberty when you look at both sides of any equation. And there are conflicting rights, always. But the rights that we have as human beings are very limited. They're in our person, in our property, and in our ability to pursue life as we please. Outside that limited scope, there are very few other rights. You don't have a right to things that you have to use force on others to obtain. So, that's my vision of liberty. And it's not 100% liberty, but it is libertarian. Because libertarians are not anarchists. Because we believe in the maximum liberty of the individual that is possible and that is consistent with an individual's freedom. And individuals cannot have freedom if they're subject to random violence. So, yes, the liberties that are limited are the liberties of other people to infringe upon the basic liberties of the members of society. And those other liberties that are infringed upon, well, they're not really liberties at all if you look at liberty from a rational and reasonable standpoint.